to instead of copy constraints, just clone with the equality between each member. Right. So let's see. Let's have a look at that. So we will close this not on release button if, and so we are here inside like the final step. Like you see here, we add the geometries to the sketch and we create the constraints. So to create the constraints, first we create a vector of constraints, and this vector is we get the values, all the constraints of the sketch object. Obj is the sketch object. And then we create a new vector, which is not a constant, and which basically is a copy of the current constraint vector. All right, so this vector is just to store the geometries, which will already have an equal, because in clone mode, what we will do is that we will replace all the distances, distance x and distance y, by equality. Maybe, I think we will. I'm not sure, we'll check that later. But yeah, the idea was if you have a distance x, distance y, then you will create two equal constraints, and that's not good. Anyhow, let's keep moving. So we have here, this is just an iterator. So we have a for loop that will iterate in the constraint vector. So it will just check all the constraints one by one. And so what it does is that it checks if the geometries which are associated with the constraints if this geometry is currently being copied, because you don't want to copy constraints from other geometries. You only want geometry to copy constraints which are about the current selected geometries. Right. So this function is doing just that. It's just checking if the first geometry of this IT constraint is in our list of GeoIDs, and then same for second and third. Right. And then we are doing different cases on the type of constraints, but that's basically because it was a rotate tool, so it might be different in this case here. But yeah, the idea is that also you have some tools which have three geometries, and other tool which have two geometries. So you see, for example, tangent can have 3 parameters or 2 parameters, and the third one in this case is geo undefined. So yeah, that's why it's separated. So let's have a look. You see here we have a for loop which will create all the constraints. So basically we want to add another loop. Let's think. What do we want? We'll replicate what we are doing with the geometries here, just for the sake of doing the same. So yeah. For e equals 0 to number of copies. Oh, that's funny. Why? Yeah, I see. This is going to be, you see here, it's less or equal, and then it's just less, strictly less, and that's because we had the issue before with this if So we need to do the same thing here, I guess. And let me think. E equals 0 and script. Well, let's try and we'll see what happens. You know, sometimes it's faster than overthinking something like this. You just try and either it works or it doesn't, and then. So basically, what we want is to modify the index, because we basically copy the constraints and then we change the geometry by incrementing them by e times size of the current vector of geometries. So what we should do, I think, is just multiply again by k, because k should be from 1. Why is it starting at 0 here? Right, it's logical because we started the first. No, it's not logical. Number of copies. No, it's not logical. And why are we starting with k equal? If I is 0 here, then this is 0, and so we create the constraint for first created curve plus first index, which makes sense, I guess. Right? Yeah, it makes sense. And because the first has like first curve created plus 0, plus 0, which is the first curve created, plus 1, plus 2, plus 3. And this is basically 0 until we get to the second copy. So that makes sense, but that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. What we want? What do we want actually? Let's think. We have to. Let me think for a while because it can take a few minutes. Right. So after thinking a bit, I found that it's probably something like that. So because we actually want to, it's you want to increment by the total numbers of copies multiplied by the initial size of the geometries you want to make. Because if you want to make 5 copies, then you want to increment k by 5 copies, because you copy all the copies of the first vector, if that makes sense. But yeah, so it probably that or minus 1, but I think that. So we'll try that and see what happens. And if it doesn't work, we'll just try something else. And maybe that's also something to look at. I'm not sure the limits will be correct. So we'll have to try all the components, right? So let's copy that here. It's the same thing here. And there you go, and we'll copy that as well. I think it's exactly the same. Yeah, same. So that should be all right. So this is for all those constraints. And then we have the cases of radius, diameter, distances. So what we want to do is, for those, if we are cloning the constraints, then we are not adding radius, diameters, and so on. We're just adding equality. So so we want to see first we'll copy that because it should be the same between all cases here and also for distances. Where is it? Where is the for loop? Why the for loop is not inside? Yeah, that's something else. Right. So the for loop. No, what's happened? What happened? Yeah, that's not good. Right. And we want to copy that as well. Here. All right. Let's get that incremented correctly. So, okay, let's take first the case of radius and diameter. So what is happening here is that we are checking if we are deleting the original, because if we are deleting the original, then we don't want to clone the constraints, obviously, or if the checkbox number 2 is not selected. So our checkbox number 2 is going to be replaced by, let's select some things here, launch the tool. So it's going to be still the checkbox number 2, right? No, maybe not. Let's see the code. Let's see the task sketcher tool here. We have keep original geometries, clone constraints. So it's checkbox number 2 indeed. Yeah, it's increment. All right. So if it's not selected, then we are creating a radius or a diameter constraints, it seems, and then we need to also add this here, press K, and we are copying the diameter constraint. Else means if we are in clone mode and we are not deleting the original. Wait a minute. Delete original could be true if we are not because delete original. If you want to delete original and make 3 copies, for instance, then it will not clone for the second and third, while it should. So we should have, let me see. But actually, keep original geometry is not such a good idea, because if you just want to translate, why am I using that? In rotate tool I have, no, I don't have it, and in scale tool, oh, I do have it, but in you don't have a number of copy in scale tool, and in offset mode it's the same. You don't have number of copies, because actually what we can do with those tools is that if you want to delete original, then you just want to rotate actually the first geometry, and what you do in this case is that you just apply 0 as the number of copies, and you want 0 copy, then the original is deleted. So basically we can just remove the checkbox. I think we can remove the checkbox, because I don't see cases where you want to delete the original and you create like 20 copies. It's so yeah. Let's go here. We'll just remove that checkbox. Let's say we won't need that. And so that will become the checkbox number 2 here, which will actually be the checkbox number 1, because it's starting from 0 here. So this is, anyway, don't pay too much attention on the task sketcher tool part because it's going to be modified a lot in the coming days. So yeah, it's not an ideal time to make this video, but I do it when I can. And so what we want to do now is to check where the delete original is happening, because obviously we are currently removing it. So if number of copies equals 0, delete original. So actually the checkbox was not used. It's actually working as I was planning to, which means that if you are making 0 copies, then it will delete the original and it will crash. No, it doesn't crash, right? But you see, delete the original. So that's what we want. So yeah, so let's get back here. So if we delete the original, then we are making only 1 copy, and that solves our question. And so if we are not and we want to clone, so this is clone mode. Let's write that. Clone constraint mode. And then here we create a new constraint. We make it a copy of the original of the IT constraint, which is the current constraint. We put it a type of equal, and then is driving equal true, constraint second, and then we want to select to change the, wait a moment, does that make sense? Yes, it makes sense, because we are currently checking a radius and diameter constraints, which have only 1 geometries set, because you just have 1 geometries for these constraints, which means that the first geometry is already the original geometry that we want to clone. So we just have to put the second geometry as the one that we are creating, which is this plus k. Then we push the new constraints. So that should actually work out of the box. All right, let's close that. And for distances, let's think a little bit. So the thing is that for distance x and distance y, you have some special cases, because if you want to clone the constraints, then what do you do? If you copy the distance x, it's not really cloning, right? Well, I think we'll just keep it as it currently is. So which means that I'll just add that and it should work, right? So yeah, it's the same if tool settings, and then here it's checkbox 1, I think. Where am I taking this code from? I realized that I'm copy pasting. Wait a minute. I'm copy pasting from rotate tool, and rotate tool doesn't have like the delete original. So why did I have here? We have 2 in the clone, in the rotate tool. Let's see, mouse, no, not that. Generate rotated geometries, and then in the else, and then we go to the constraints here, for loop, and here in radius for, and here we have if not checkbox selected number 2, which let me think that in the rotate tool the clone mode should not be working. I think, I'm not sure. Let's see about that. If I copy that, I make a rotation, I clone the constraints, and I make 20 copies or anything like that, will I get equality? Yeah, I have equality, right? So what was my point here? is that this checkbox is checkbox number 2. So let's see in this function here. Is checkbox equal to ts2? Right, it's absolutely wrong what I said. It's not incrementing from 0. So okay, let's close that. So here it's 2, but then it makes me think, yeah, it's a good thing that we are going to modify the original code of tool settings. Well, that Abdullah is currently refactoring this code because it was probably not ideal. Okay, all right, so we have checkbox number 2 here, and then where are we here? Checkbox number 2, distance. If the type is distance, all right. Else if the first and second, oh, that's going to be because in the rotate tool, when you have distance x and distance y, the things gets more complicated. But in this tool, is it more complicated, or should we just add like distance x and distance y, or well, just remove this if? Yeah, because when you are in the rotate tool, the distance x and distance y change, so you cannot just copy it. It makes no sense to copy it, even if it's not in clone mode. But here in translate, it will not, so it actually makes sense to just copy it. So we remove that, and we remove that as well, like that, and it will just copy all the distances. Right? Yeah, I think so. All right. And then where is my else for? Wait a minute. Where is my else? Here. I should have an else. And so I just deleted. Yeah, I deleted it. Let's think. Yeah, let's remove that anyway. I think it's we're just going to copy that here. This elf, and in the clone constraint mode, what are we going to do? We are going to copy the constraints, we are going to apply equal, and then the first is already, so this is not true here. The first is not, because distance has 2 indexes, so this is not true. And so we want to create also the first equal yeah, first index, second index, first index and second index. Yeah, I think so, right? Right, I think so. But at the same time, what is that? At the same time, as I said, if we have like, let me show you an example. If we have a line like this, and this line has a distance x and also a distance y, then you see if the code doesn't check that it already had an equal, then it will create two equality constraint. So we have to catch that case. So here here it's not just an if else, we need another statement here. Let us go back a bit. here. Let me copy that. It's like the original code that I deleted, and I go back. Okay. And I will pass that here just to see how it's done. And I think it's this that we want, an index in vec geo id who already has equal, and we have to check for that. Okay, that's it. And we'll just remove that, and else if. So this way we are checking that Joe who already has equal, but why are we checking only the first one? Let's see. So this is an inaccuracy because the because let me think. Yeah. All right, so I gave it a little thought, and so we have a problem here because we are actually checking if the first geometry, so the original geometry, has already an equals, but so that means that it will work only for the first copy, and when the first copy is done, then the other copy won't have the equality. So that's a problem. And besides, for the distances, we can have an equality only if we have like it's one line or one arc, because if it's a distance between 2 points which are not the same geometry, then we have no line that to which we can apply the equality. So so what we want to do is to close. All right, so now let's have a look if everything is working. Let's take that as a point of reference. Number of copy, let's put maybe 5 here, and distance maybe 1000. So the first thing is that it's rotating correctly at length 1500 here, and we can snap that. Let's see why. Oh, snap mode is not working. Snap mode is not working if we are using a length which is not great. It should work as well. So we need to fix that, and then yeah, that's not good. Look at the vector is actually not like what is happening here. Yeah, so the line which is created is not correct, and nothing happens. What? All right, so there are a few things to solve apparently, and let me try again. If I don't put the wait a moment. Oh no, they are here. Yeah, look at that. They are here, but it's just that they are not drawn. Let us close that. Oh, that doesn't sound good. No, that's not good at all. So yeah, so what is happening is that this is required after all. So let's put that back. Let's put that back here, and then we had the problem with with here. The line here was not correct, and why was it not correct? It should have been correct, because we are using the same as here. Look at that, reference point as the start point and second translation vector as the second point. The thing is, why would it work for the first translation point? Because it's point, obviously, right? It's not the first translation vector, because the vector is starting from 0. It's not, so that's better. Let's build and see. Oh yeah, and there's also the snap problem in mouse move here. Let's go here. Right, you see the snap mode is not working if we are in tool settings, because obviously you can see the snap is here. So what we want to do is we don't want to snap to a point, because if the length is fixed, then it should stay fixed and it shouldn't snap to a point which is not at the correct length. But we still want to snap at 5 degrees. So what? So we are going to put that here probably. Let's try to put that here, and maybe, yeah, put that, take that here. And then, does that make sense? Does that make sense? First translation point, reference point, plus length, plus vector angle. I think it makes sense. But then it's just that we can put the rest, that this formula, it could be here, because, yeah, that probably makes sense. That can be here too. And so we want to have the same thing in the 6/3, because we want to be able also to snap. And then so we take that here, we put that here, and we get that, which I'm not, yeah, we take that and that here. Let's build again and see how it behaves, and we'll close that here, and I'll pause. So let me check that it's recording. All right, now let's try that. So we'll snap to that point to first try that it's working. Yeah, you see it's snapping correctly, and then snapping is working here as expecting. Let's create a few copies. It's still working, and then if we add a length, one, yeah, now it's working. So let's try that, and then, well, the line is drawn to the correct point, so that's already something. And let's try to add a few of them, and we can snap to an angle. We can snap to a point as well. You see it gets sucked by the point, and we can also apply a length if we want, maybe 2000 here. Let's see if, yeah, you see it's rotating around the center point, and we have the angle which is working properly. The only thing is that the text here, you see the blue text is not following the mouse cursor, it's stuck here. So I'd like to get that back, and you see it's showing the angle -5, -10, minus. So if we want the rectangular array at 45, we can just do like this, right? And now let's see if the constraints got copied correctly. So that's already something. You see the, oh, look at that. we lose one here and we lose one here and not this one. All right, so I don't know what happens. Why only the two last? It's like, all right, we are losing only the last two geometries. Why last two? Why two? I would expect like the last one, but the last two is less obvious. Other than that, it's like they look like it's working properly. But let's cancel all of that and try to add some length and some yeah, we'll put that here, maybe distance x here, maybe a distance I don't know. We could put a few more stuff like that here. Yeah, maybe an angle. Oh wait, angle. Anyway, yeah, no, that's fine. We'll try with a bit more of constraints. Then if we copy that, we make a rectangular eye. Let's put 5 copies here, like this, and then let's put 2 copies, 3 copies here. Yeah. So we have a lot of equality, I see. And if we change that to 1,000, well, that's not bad. That's not bad. And we have the perpendicular, which is copied as well. We lost the angle. Yeah, obviously, because in the code I didn't include the angles. I don't know why. Probably just forgot about them. So we'll have to add the angles. And we'll add it right here anyway. Like, it should be pretty straightforward to add because we don't want anything special. And then, are we still losing the constraints? Yeah, you can see the last two doesn't have any constraints here. So there must be some kind of issues. And I guess what is strange is that we don't over constrain over other elements. So let us see what happens if I take only one, like this. If we make only copies on one axis, if we make only copies on this axis and then on the second axis we don't make any, then here we have the copies. All right, and if we make the same but we create copies, 4 copies like this, and then we create 2 lines, then we are losing only 1. You see? Why? Why 1 and then 2? Let's try to get more copies. Like if we put like 4 again, like this, 5 anyway, and then we had a lot of lines, like 6, 7. See what happens? Let's see what happens. Oh, so we are actually losing more and more depending on the number of lines. And here we lose 6 pieces, 6, and we made 7 rows. So for each row we are losing 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So yeah. So so there must be something wrong in the code. Let's go back here. It's something about that, about this loop. This loop it has a problem. And the problem is, let us think. Well, I'll just figure it out, and it's not very interesting. So you see the tool is mostly working, and I think I showed the biggest part of how the development went. So to summarize, the idea is to find ideally, if you can find a tool in FreeCAD which is very similar to what you want to do, you can copy that tool, the code of that tool, and you can try to adapt it to do what you want. And this way you don't need to know exactly the structure of the draw sketch handler, because you will already have an example, and then you can just modify it a little bit by a little bit until you get what you want. So yeah, that's about it. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did enjoy it, you can consider backing me on Patreon as well. I opened an account, and the more I get and the more time I spend on FreeCAD and making videos and stuff, so that would be cool. And other than that, if you want to start like doing something in FreeCAD and you don't really know what, you can come on the forum and ask for ideas, and I have few ideas if you want, so I'll be happy to help you get started in development, so don't hesitate. Well, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a good day. Bye bye.